Hello there my RPG lovers and welcome to another video. Voin is a new first-person open-world action RPG. This game has a very stylized visual design and fast-paced action combat with RPG and roguelike elements. We still don't have an exact release date, but you can request access for the demo and try the game out for yourself. I'll leave the link in the description and the pinned comment. I got to play the demo for this game in the past couple of days, and I think I got a very good grasp of how everything works. We're going to talk about all major features of the game, how they work, and what you can expect from the full release. It's also worth mentioning that the demo is not feature complete, obviously. The demo straight up tells you this with on-screen text or item descriptions. Before we start talking about the game, huge thanks to TinyBuild for sponsoring this video and reaching out to the channel. Now let's dive right in. The demo of Voin doesn't try to waste your time at all. There is a short cutscene which shows you the main character and you jump right into the action. As for the story, you are one of the elemental servants created by a powerful mage to fulfill one purpose: cleanse the world of a devastating plague that has consumed all life. The tutorial section of the demo introduces you to some key mechanics. First of all, the controls are very responsive and snappy, which is extremely important for a first-person action RPG. Moving around feels very smooth, especially when you start exploring the open world maps. But before that, we have a short tutorial level where you have to learn everything about the combat system. You attack with your mouse buttons and evade attacks with shifts. Enemies will glow yellow when they attack, which is an indicator when you need to avoid hits. It's very simple and it works, but it quickly gets a lot harder because the game will throw a bunch of enemies at you at once. You quickly learn that trying to be more defensive and evading all the time is not what you're supposed to do. In fact, it's quite the opposite actually. The way you heal in the game is by attacking enemies, which by itself encourages a very aggressive playstyle. Besides the fast attack, you can hold the attack button for a stronger attack, which I used almost exclusively. The timing of the hits and the positioning is very important, and you can just move out of the way of attacks without the need to evade them all the time. But you can even hold the attack button, wait for the enemy to attack, evade, and then release the strong attack. Like I said, it all feels very responsive and smooth. Then we have some special attacks which need to be charged and used by clicking the right mouse button. This attack deals some lightning damage to all enemies on the screen. It's a very important attack for dealing with a bunch of enemies, and you get to use it quite often. The sound effects are beefy and satisfying as well, which certainly helps with the sense of impact on hits. Speaking of lightning attacks, you can also stomp on enemies from above, which feels amazing when you manage to pull it off. Combined with a great amount of freedom of movement out of combat, you can easily time this ability while in the air. The tutorial also teaches you about special abilities that you can learn throughout the game. You need to find these items first in order to get an ability point. The demo only has a handful of them that you can unlock. For example, this ability pushes you back and slows down the time, and when you attack, you will propel yourself to the enemy. It can also be a pretty decent defensive ability, which can get you out of hairy situations. You can still get hit while using this ability, which I learned the hard way. But the game also has some invincibility frames when you successfully dash in time to avoid the attack. The tutorial is nice, but it can give you a wrong idea how the levels in this game actually work. You're not exploring narrow corridors in caves, but fully open world maps which can be explored at your own pace. Well, actually, you will be able to find different dungeons in the open world maps, which offer similar experience like in the tutorial. But even those dungeons are much bigger compared to the tutorial area. There are some very nice things to see in these areas, and you get to fight some stronger enemies and eventually a boss.
Behind you.
Once you're completely done with the tutorial, the demo opens up. You get to visit your hub area, which has a couple of different rooms. One of them is for leveling up and unlocking new abilities, while the other is for cleansing items that you picked up. Leveling up is purely cosmetic in the demo, but the full game will give you talent points and unlock new abilities. The room for cleansing your items is self-explanatory. Enemies can drop various gear pieces and weapons which need to be cleansed. You can check them out in the inventory whenever you like, but in order to start using them, you need to go back to your hub area and cleanse them. I picked up a bunch of different weapons, but the special features you can find on them are not yet implemented. Even so, the base damage was pretty important, so I just stick with the one with the greatest damage. Dual wielding feels pretty epic, but I usually prefer a heavy and slower two-handed weapons. Don't get the wrong idea though. Even the so-called slowest weapons in the game are very fast in general, which keeps the action fast-paced at all times, regardless of the weapon you use. All of these items seem to have different quality levels, which are color-coded like in most ARPGs. I also unlocked another cool ability, which allows you to throw your weapon at the enemy. It helps a lot with dealing with distant ranged enemies which spam projectiles at you. But even just in general, it's a pretty cool ability. If you follow the quests in the demo, you'll eventually find some very cool daggers. Although, like I said, I mostly played with this two-handed weapon because the damage on it was pretty damn good. And I usually feel more comfortable to use slower weapons for methodical hits. When I try to use fast weapons in games, I just tend to spam attacks a lot with no control. You can certainly kill weaker enemies like that in this game, but it's easy to get carried away and you can easily die. Speaking of which, that's where all the roguelike elements come into play. You drop all of your items in the inventory upon death, as well as the currency. And you need to pick things up when you get back to the place you died. There are some very simple quests in the demo which tell you the direction of your next objective. At the end, you'll need to find the watchtower, progress to the dungeon and kill the main boss. There are some areas which just tease you about the content that's not yet in the game. Besides the dash ability, the map also has these little orbs which you can use for moving around. I like how they try to use the dashing ability to its fullest potential to complement the level design. You can find some very well hidden chests in areas which are not easily accessible. For the full game, I hope they will go even crazier with the map design. It's very fun to move around, find secret chests and hope to find the next big item. I think the items are going to be much more fun to play around with because you'll be able to try out different builds. I'm also really curious to see more bosses in the final version of the game and how their mechanics will work. Overall, the combat is very satisfying and brutal. You're constantly dismembering enemies, which makes the sense of impact very good. There is a nice and subtle slow-mo effect when this happens and I like it a lot. You become much faster out of combat when you sheath your weapon. The control button will push you forward in the direction of your camera. This ability has a very short cooldown, which allows you to zoom around the map. There is no fall damage, so having vertical map design makes a lot of sense. I also found some pillars on the map which activate horde mode, where enemies come at you in waves. I'm really curious about other open world maps that you're going to get in the full game. As we can see from this screen, we can expect some more open areas, obviously, new abilities and a skill tree, more monsters to fight and weapons, as well as storylines and quests. It will be interesting to see how the story develops, even though this game is certainly not hyper-focused on storytelling. The fast-paced action is very satisfying in the demo, and I only hope it will further improve in the full game. All of that sounds very promising, so I can't wait to see more in the future. Like I said before, you can request the access for the demo on Steam for free and try it out for yourself. I will check out the full game when it finally comes out, so stick around for the full review. And that will be all for this video. Tell me your opinion about Voin in the comments below, and do you plan to try out the demo? You'll find the link for the Steam store in the description and the pinned comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the video. I'm getting really close to 100k subscribers mark, which is kinda insane. You can also become a channel member or a Patreon and get to watch new videos before they go live. Huge thanks to all of my current supporters, and I'll see you in the next one.